Hey there role players, rhaegar here for another video. Today's video, still hot from the excitement at the UK Games Expo, is going to be about convention gaming. Namely, it's going to be about 5 tips to help you run a convention game. Now I should preface this by saying I am not the most experienced GM when it comes to convention gaming. I have ran one-shots before. I have been in quite a few of them, and that's primarily what my experience is going to come from, and from talking to GMs at conventions and other players. However, what this video is also, is hopefully going to be a tinderbox to other YouTubers' imaginations out there to get them to respond and bring their own tips. For example, we've got some convention veterans out there that may have a lot more advice than I could possibly give, such as people like Sean Collins of Outside 66, the gentleman gamer himself, if he feels like coming out of retirement for one more video, to people in the one-shot group, which has only been around maybe 18 months or so. I don't know the exact time. Forgive me if I get that wrong. And you've got advice from their side of things for running one-shots online, such as Lloyd Collins, Andrea C. Martinez, Runeslinger, the almighty Runeslinger. And of course, more importantly, this is a good way to stop GRD30 from catching up on his video responses. So, that's what's important. So, these are 5 tips to help you run a convention one-shot, or things to keep in mind. Okay? So, tip 1. Prepare for new players. Now what that means is that when you run this game, either at a convention or online, there's no guarantee, it's likely, but there's no guarantee you're going to get experienced players who know what the game's about. So, you have, when you construct this story, when you think about what you need to think that you're going to have someone there that's never played role-playing games before, may never have picked up a dice before, and you have to be ready for that. And I've seen GMs get around this by doing a variety of things, such as having like a cheat sheet that they hand around to everyone saying, these are the basic mechanics, this is sort of the idea of the game, and these are the things that you need to keep in mind when playing. Brilliant. Also, I've seen GMs at the beginning of a game just get an idea of experience, just go around and say, how many games have you played? How many years of experience have you got? If you're new so he knows as the game, or he or she knows as the game goes on, who to keep in mind to explain things to for mechanics and how to bring the character out. If they've never played before, you've got to give them some help. Tip 2. Sort of following on from that, make sure you have everything you actually need to play the game. This is kind of more aimed at the physical convention gaming side of things, because online games are not something I have experienced about in running. But for physical games around the table, make sure you've got things like the basics, pencils, the dice, the characters, the spare pieces of paper. These seem like basic things, but you will be surprised at people just turning up with nothing. And you still need to make sure the game is going to work. So always bear that in mind. You may need to have dice for everyone. And for Star Wars, FFG style, that could be a pain. Tip 3. Whatever story or kind of concept you come up with for this game, it has to be flexible. You have to be able to change the pacing of it on the fly. That's what I've found. You need something that you can shorten if need be, or lengthen. You can drop things and you have little bits of story or complications prepared to drop in, because players aren't necessarily going to get through the session at the same rate as another group. They may decide they want to talk around each other and talk about their backstories and for a long scene. If that's what they want to do, fine. Others may be very decisive on the point and want to get through each story point and get to the conclusion. You must prepare that they may go through at different speeds, and you must be ready for that. Some groups are fast, some groups slow. There's nothing wrong with that. But you want to give them the kind of feeling that they haven't just done it in 20 minutes and it's done. You want to make them feel like they've actually progressed over time. Right? Tip 4. when coming up with the character ideas for your game, I think this is more from talking to the GMs. It's important to sort of get an idea of what are the key characters in this story or the situation. What characters do you need for this to work? Who has the abilities or the set of skills that combined with others makes this doable, makes it easy, makes it hard, makes it sort of more complicated? Because there's no guarantee and you're going to get all the players you want around the table. Most games has a sweet spot from what I found between 3 to 5 players. To me that's just the right amount for time, getting the interaction stuff. But you may only get 2. Can 2 characters get through this thing okay, or we need to make adjustments? Again, do you think that each character's role in this sort of 4-hour story you've come up with, how does it work out? How are the skills and abilities spread out between them? Can you do it 2? Can you do it 3? Etc. etc. These things keep in mind. And last but not least, tip 5. Props are brilliant. I love props in physical games. I think they're great. I think they're really fun to interact with, but use them sparingly. Don't overdo it in the sense that you just swamp them with things to look at in one go. Because a few props, I think, really boost up immersion. Because they stay in character and they're looking at things and they're describing it to each other and stuff as if they're there in a physical place in the game. I'm saying, in the game world. With too many props, people stop paying attention and they're just looking at the thing in the front of them and not what's going on around them. So, less is more, but a little bit is better than a lot. Makes sense? Yeah. So, from what I've seen in games, for example, Sean Connors does this really well. He gives them out gradually over a 4-hour period, throwing in a few red herrings in there, because he's a clever little DM, and allows the group to disseminate them over time rather than being overloaded, which I always thought was clever, and I've always got that ready for when I bring props into my games. So guys, that was a bit rambly as always, but that was 5 tips for convention / one-shot / online gaming. Now hopefully this is going to inspire some of you guys out there and girls to come forward and provide your own advice for running conventions, games, and doing things in the one-shot group, for example. I would love to hear your thoughts. So, until then, take care.